Hey there, and welcome to the Hey There Thrivival podcast. I'm your host, Emily Haig, and on this podcast, we talk everything extreme parenthoods, new parents, twins, multiples, etc. Today's guest is the perfect candidate because she is none other than the national chairperson of the Australian Multiple Births Association, Silje Andersen-Cooke. She's also a lawyer, mum to one, and then surprise triplets. She's very engaged, highly motivated, and really insightful. She spends a lot of time with government in Australia, driving policy, and also collaborating internationally with global bodies. So this is going to be a really interesting chat. We're going to talk about where are we at and where have we come from? Have we gone backwards? Also, what are the issues multiples actually need help with? How does it really differ from a single birth? Why are we all paying tax but multiple births are not getting the commensurate rate? Also, what can you do as a member of the community to help get this in front of politicians and help to get change? If you enjoyed today's podcast, make sure you hit that subscribe button, send it to a friend, and I'd love it if you'd also give us a rating. That helps the show and sends us to more people just like you to help them get set to thrive, not just survive. Okay, let's jump in. Silje, welcome to Hey There Thrivival. It's so great to have you on the show today. Can you give the audience an introduction as to who you are and what you do?
Thank you so much for having me. My name is Silje. I'm a mother of 3-year-old triplets and a 5-year-old singleton. I'm a lawyer and I'm also the chair of the Australian Multiple Birth Association.
Wonderful. And so I'd like to hear a little bit about your journey to becoming a triplet mum. But how did that happen? How did you find out and what was your reaction? And is it a family trait that you have triplets?
It's such a common question that people ask me is, does this run in the family? And I can tell you that I did not expect this whatsoever. We had already had a 1.5-year-old at the time. We were trying for our second child. And we don't have any twins in our family, no warning signs that this could happen to us. And I was going for the 7-week ultrasound, and that's when I found out. And my partner, Jordan, actually wasn't even going to come to the ultrasound. And last minute, he was like, I'll be there. And I'm so glad he was there. And the technician was also not expecting to see what she saw, and was, that really painfully slow wait when they are looking for the heartbeat for the first time, and you're like, gosh, it's taking a long time. And then she just takes a breath and she's like, okay, I'm going to tell you what I can see here. And I was like, yeah, what can you see? And she's like, I can see one here with a heartbeat. And I was like, okay, yep, great. And then another one here, another heartbeat. And I was like, oh my gosh, twins. Okay, twins. Wow. And then another pause before she's like, and another one here. And I was like, at that point, I was like, oh my goodness, like what is going on? And just like this. And my partner, Jordan, was just laughing. I think he just thought it was so funny. We just couldn't handle, you don't really process it in the moment when you're there. You're like, what? And then she was like, and I'll just check there isn't any more. And I was like, what do you mean? There could be more. And she didn't find any more. And I mean, 4 would be an adventure. But yeah, 3 was already a lot and amazing miracle. And then she printed out the ultrasound because I was like, I need to see this in hard copy. I need to see the actual image of these 3 babies that you found in my tummy. And yeah, we drove home, and you can just imagine the thoughts racing, which I know you would have experienced as well. Like, we're going to need a bigger car. Can we live in a 2-bedroom tiny house in Sydney? And how expensive it's going to be. How can my body carry triplets? Is that even possible? Like, the questions I was asking, like, where do you get a pram? I don't know anybody who's had triplets. I've never even seen a pram that could have triplets. Like, so many questions, and I had to just answer at least the top ones that day. And then I was like, okay, I can do it. It's okay. It's going to be okay. And then yeah, we just accepted it.
Were there any interesting or comical reactions from friends, family, things like that?
Oh, there was a lot of disbelief, like a lot of no, no, what? No. And so much of that, and just going, no, I'm telling you, this is the truth. Like, look at this photo. And then, yeah, just shock and just so much love and support from family and friends as well. And I also had a really good GP that I'd been seeing during my first pregnancy, and she was just like, "You're amazing. You can do this. I'm here to support you." So a lot of emotions.
I bet. And so talk me through, Celia, with your pregnancy, was it a fairly standard pregnancy? Were there anything different? Because you've obviously had another child, so great, comparison to see what the differences are. But love the audience to understand what that looked like for you, and then we'll go on to the next pieces after that.
Yeah, being pregnant with triplets was very different to being pregnant with one child. And I had TCTA triplets, so that means they were trichorionic triamniotic. So they were each in their own sac and they each had their own placenta, which the doctor told me was the safest version of triplets, and was to describe it was like you basically got three pregnancies going on at once. And the pregnancy went okay. It just escalated really quickly. So by the time I was 20 weeks pregnant, I probably looked full term, and every second person was like, "You must be due any day now." And I was like, "Nope, got weeks to go, weeks to this is you have no idea." And got, had like pups, rash, especially at the end. So my belly was super itchy. It was very heavy, obviously having three placentas and three babies inside my belly. And also they were just when I would lie down, they would kick, and it would just be like I looked like an alien, like limbs poking out of my, it was just so funny. And especially later in the pregnancy, it was summer, I was so swollen that every night my partner would like get a bucket of cold water to put my feet in, because they were just like they couldn't even fit into a shoe. Like so much water retention, so much swelling. I could barely walk by the end. And I made it until 34 weeks and 5 days before I was like, I'm done. Like, these babies need to be evacuated.
And what is the average gestation for triplets? Is it 30 to 35 weeks?
Yeah,
Would that be accurate?
yes, the doctor told me it was around 30 weeks was the average gestation of triplets. But because it's so rare, it's
Wow.
difficult to provide sort of an accurate average per se. I was lucky that I was healthy. I had low iron levels, but relatively minor things, and was able to carry them for as long as I could stand it.
That is a great achievement, 34 weeks when the average is 30. So congratulations on making that happen. Now let's talk about delivery. How was it? Did the babies go to NICU and how long were they there for?
Yeah, it was a really difficult time because they had some of that leftover rules from COVID. So it was in 2022, early 2022. And I was really anxious that my partner wouldn't be able to be at the birth because of their COVID rules. And if he had gotten COVID or something, he wouldn't be able to be there. So in the lead up, I was so stressed about that. He didn't get COVID and he was able to be there, but I couldn't have any other support person. So the delivery went as well as planned, and I had a cesarean. And it was really funny actually. The only thing I asked of the because I'd already had a cesarean before, so I was like, he was basically like, it's the same deal. Just three come out instead of one. I was like, great. And he said, I had asked him specifically because I knew I was having two boys and one girl, and when they're in my tummy, I had already named the two boys because the one on the right side had movements. I don't know, there's a way you can just tell their personality inside you, and the other one had different kinds of movements. And I was like, don't get them mixed up because I've already named this one on the right and this one on the left. That was his only job. Although obviously do the surgery correct and everything, but this is important to me. And he didn't get them mixed up. And so I've got a Teddy and an Eric. And my Teddy is like a teddy bear that just wants to cuddle you, loves dancing, and it's just sunshine. And Eric is just this, I call him Eric the Viking because he's just like so determined and wants to like do everything himself and like wants to help with me with everything. It's so funny. So it's so funny having that intuition as a pregnant, being pregnant and then seeing their personalities as they grow up. But the birth went really well, and then my partner had to take the plan. We had a plan. My partner would go with the babies to the NICU, and before the birth, we had been given the opportunity to tour the NICU. So I had seen the space and knew where they were going to go, and I think that really helped me visualize and accept what was going to happen. When they came out, I got to see them, and then they were taken away to the NICU. They were all okay, and Jordan went with them. I went somewhere else to recover from the surgery, and I was there by myself for what felt like an endless period of time, but it was like 9 hours. And Jordan came up eventually, and he was sending me videos of the babies while he was down there and talking to them and holding their hands, so I felt comforted. But I was in so much pain afterwards. Like, they had not done the pain medication right, and I was just, I felt like I'd just been stabbed, which is exactly what had happened. It was like I could feel the entire aftermath of the surgery, and it took so long for someone to come and give me the right amount of pain meds. And finally, I was feeling better. But then the only way we could go down to see the babies was I had to take my whole bed down there because obviously I'm like hooked up to a catheter or something. So we had to wait until there was enough space because there was other people there. And then finally my bed was wheeled down to the NICU, and I got to have a cuddle with them. And by the time I got down there, I think it was the two boys were off the breathing support because they were only on there for a short period of time.
Was it
So yeah, the CPAP. So they could be put on my chest, and I had all three of them, like initial, like first cuddle, and it was the most amazing moment. Like, it's just, I finally felt like I could breathe again and be like, I did it. Like, all of that was worth it. All that pain. And I had 3 healthy babies, and I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I think that I was talking about this earlier with someone, but that separation period where you've just had babies and then you don't get to see them. And again, we're very lucky to have these fantastic medical systems and the NICU to care for our babies, but that almost primal instinct to be with them and to not be with them is so, so difficult. So I can definitely relate to that, and I'm sure a lot of people can. But amazing work on them coming out and being in such great shape. So I'd love to hear, I guess you had your triplets and then you ended up joining AMBA, so the Australian Multiple Births Association. What led you to that?
So when I was pregnant with triplets, I joined my local multiple birth club, and through that membership, I got access to a new parent group. I got to talk to other parents who had just had their multiples and ask them all the random logistical questions you have as a pregnant mum. I rented equipment from them, like breastfeeding pillows, went to a multiple birth playgroup. And it was so interesting because I had been to a playgroup with my first child, and there was that like cliquey nature of the mothers group. I don't know if you've experienced that, but when I had one child, I went to this mothers group. It didn't really work out. I didn't make that many friends or anything. And it just felt a bit like, look at me, my kid sleeps through the night. When you go to a playgroup with multiples, let me tell you, the atmosphere is so different. It is like a warm hug. I would turn up there with my 3 babies and someone would be like, cool, I'll take your kids. I'm making you a tea. No one's dressed up. We're all wearing tracksuit pants. We're all, just, you just feel so validated. I cannot tell you. I just felt so grateful to be able to have that access to other parents who had, twins who were 5 and older than mine, and I could see the future a bit more and see that they were still functioning, and you're so tired and so depleted and feeling like you're going crazy because you're just stuck in the house and it takes so much effort to go outside. Being around other people who have been through that was essential for me, and it just validated me, made me feel so much better. I reached out to the National Association and just was like, how can I do something? Because I was so angry that despite having 3 babies at once, I was not eligible for any more parental leave. I wasn't eligible for the multiple birth allowance, even though we didn't earn a crazy amount of money. We weren't rich or anything. We were actually in debt because we had to buy this huge car, financial pressures, cost of living, and I wasn't working, and I've run out of parental leave. So I was just so angry. I can't actually, that is where this decision came from, was just a feeling of anger, a feeling of people like the government not acknowledging the unique challenges that multiples have and wanting to do something about it. If not for me personally, I knew it was going to be something that I was hoping that I could help the next generation. And I'm a lawyer. I was really interested in like policy change and advocating, and my partner works in media relations. So I talked to him a lot about how does one get a story in the media and get some advice about that. And with that support, very helpful. With that support, I became a director of the Australian Multiple Birth Association and have been now for almost, over 3 years. And the babies at the time were 7 months old when I started volunteering.
Fantastic. Well, there's nothing like lived experience, is there, to really open your eyes. And I think we're always lucky in whatever community you are, whatever the shared issues are, when there's people that have fantastic skills like yourself, and then it sounds like your husband as well, to bring value, because media understanding and policy change and that legal piece is so important. I wanted to also mention the explanation for what the Multiple Births Association is, just for those who haven't heard of it or don't know. So it's a voice for the multiples community to improve outcomes. The mission is to create positive health outcomes and awareness and equality, and also provide advocacy, education, and community. It is a charity, so it's fully run by volunteers. It's got a board of director and more than 40 clubs nationally, which is a lot of people with multiples doing free work and probably their jobs and whatever else. So it's quite a big undertaking, and you have done some really impressive things. I think what is interesting is talking around what are the unique extremes in parenthood for people who haven't been there or maybe don't know how to categorize it. So I wanted to run through a couple, and if you've got any call outs to add, I've pulled these from your reports that you've done over the years. I've gone through and scraped them just so that we can have a nice tight summary. So mothers, high risk pregnancies, gestational diabetes, hyperemesis gravidarum, which is an extreme pregnancy sickness, which can be on a spectrum, and it's more likely if you've got multiples. It can be constant sickness or part of the pregnancy, sometimes hospitalization. Physical symptoms, you talked about carrying triplets, of course, heavy weight, abdominal damage as well, can be quite a thing, rectus diastole. Babies, so complications or loss, developmental delays, disability, twin-to-twin transfusion syndrome, TAPS, which is an acronym, and won't go into it, but growth restriction and TRAPS as well. So we talk about the babies, specialist lactation needs, which you referred to before. 73% of multiples go to the NICU or the special care unit, so the SCU, which again is premature births. That's that time off before work. So high likelihood, again, 73%. And then obviously there's after work as well. So that's money out of pocket and impacts to mat leave, unpaid leave. And then the process to getting to applying for paid parental leave for both is much more complicated with multiples as well. 63% of mothers of multiples finish work earlier than planned, so 63%. And then 89% of mothers had to finish work before reaching 35 weeks. So that's, again, we're talking about specifically what are the issues with this. Parent health, 70% of parents have either postnatal depression or mental health in the first 2 years post-birth. 74% of parents feel isolated during the early years of raising multiples. And then if we talk about the high expense and then divorce rates, 70% higher costs for the first 2 years, higher chance of relationship issues, higher than average divorce rates. So with AMBA, Celia, do you want to go over what are the high-level buckets at the local level and then the national level that AMBA provides and how it solves for those problems that we've just talked about?
Yeah, thank you so much for summarizing that. A lot of effort from amazing volunteers to put together that sort of research and really validate parents with multiples and what their experiences are. And obviously we know that it's unimaginable joy having multiples, but there are these unavoidable challenges as well. And so at the local level, the Australian Multiple Birth Association has local affiliated clubs across Australia, and those local clubs provide individualised support in their local areas, depending on the volunteers that they can recruit to be able to provide that support. And all the volunteers are other parents of multiples. So this is incredible community of passionate parents who have had these experiences and want to give back to that community. They've got that knowledge and we're all helping each other. Then AMBA, or Australian Multiple Birth Association, provides education and advocacy support as like a peer just blanked. The Australian Multiple Birth Association, or AMBA as we like to call it, we provide national focus, education and advocacy on behalf of parents of multiples. And that's been a really strong focus of the organisation over the last few years, advocating on behalf of parents to the government to be able to get increased support for multiple birth families and have their experiences validated and heard. And we also provide support to those local clubs as well. We don't receive any government funding currently. That is one of the asks that we've put in budget submissions because we're a peak body. We represent an amazing community all across Australia that deserves to be heard on a wider level and also deserves to have more services available to it as well. Since starting this role and being more a part of this and also being more connected to wider stakeholders who run organisations who support other areas like mental health and family, there's such a gap for multiples. Every other stakeholder, they don't provide that unique support that parents of multiples need to hear and to see. Advice around breastfeeding or mental health or even health-related things with kids. It needs to be specific for multiple birth families. We have these really unique challenges. So there's this really big gap that needs to be plugged by increased funding so that we can actually provide that support.
Yeah, absolutely. And so if we were to get into that a little bit more, you've mentioned the ask. So advocate for allocation of equal government funding because we all pay tax. And at the moment, if you have two babies separately, you get two lots. If you have them together because of genetics or whatever the situation is, you get less. And it doesn't make sense that there's the miss there, and it's just something which hasn't been paid attention to. So yes, advocacy for equal government funding, and then consistent policy. So we've talked a little bit around the experience of multiple births going from that, I guess, pregnancy to delivery and postpartum. So one of the big challenges, as you know, Celia, is consistent treatment. So you were lucky because you had a lactation consultant that knew about at least feeding twins. And some of the challenges are, how do you manage through a pregnancy with twins plus and all the different intricate differences, make sure that there's consistency across Australia and that staff have a pathway. So for example, at the moment there is a mum of triplets, and she has her triplets split between two different cities in Australia. We've got two an hour and a half away, and then one that's really sick here. And it seems that there's just not a policy in place to support the staff to escalate to get them back together. And one of the babies is really sick. So that is a great example of why there needs to be, consistent policy. So getting that through and a good standard of care. I know that there's globally the rescue hug, which then informed the kangaroo care model, which is about keeping multiples together. So there were twins in 1995 in Massachusetts. One was really sick and they put them together in the crib and the other one hugged it. Again, not always possible when there's safety concerns, so leave that to the doctors, but ultimately having policies which support that. And then access to childcare as well, so early education. There's some challenges there in terms of participation of multiples, so you guys help advocate for that. 54% of multiple parents reported they had trouble accessing placements, and then also the educator awareness once they go in. So for example, keeping them on consistent sleep schedules, so when they go home it's not a mess and things like that. So consistency there. And then advocacy for parents in school, and I think the position of AMBA is that should be a decision which is owned by the parents. So basically, AMBA does a lot of really important work and at the moment isn't government funded. Anything you wanted to add?
Thanks for summarizing that, Emily. Yeah, we really think that having multiple parents of multiples part of those conversations and those policy considerations is so important. Like, it cannot be understated. This situation with the amazing triplet mum that you were just referencing before, who's currently one baby in one hospital and an hour and a half away, the other two babies are in the other hospital, and one is really unwell, that is just not okay. The distress that causes those parents, how hard that would be, it just cannot be a policy. There has to be some oversight and some acknowledgement, because they don't recognize and consider multiples as in the policy making process, then it's not considered. I find this so often. I've met with so many MPs now, and anytime when I'm in front of their face and I say I have triplets and I explain to them what it's like, to basically force them to see what it's like for me. For example, just going to childcare, I mentioned something about I couldn't actually get my kids inside the childcare because before they were walking and able to walk through the door, I had a wagon pram and there were stairs up to the childcare where my oldest son went. And I was like, I actually can't get them inside because I can't carry them all and I can't leave them here next to a busy road. How would this work? And I think these people who have not had multiples don't actually consider how it would be different for us until it's right in their face. That's why it's so important to have an organisation like AMBA to advocate on behalf of multiples. And we do have amazing volunteers doing incredible work developing these policies. We have a great relationship with Twins Research Australia. Our patron, Jeff, is an incredible respected researcher in the twins area and is really passionate about this as well. And we've done all this research, and it's unclear to me why doesn't take action and recognize that this needs to be funded. And despite 3 years of having meetings, I feel like I'm getting closer to it, but with anything government, it's painfully slow. But the urgency is there.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for sharing that, Celia. I think it is complicated to get policy through government. And obviously, there's a lot of competing parties and voices and people that are very good at campaigning from all angles to get their issues to the front and get that budget and funding. But it is almost mind blowing because it's just math. We all pay tax. You've got X amount of babies, single births get them. Why not the parents that, have them at one go? If anything, Jim Chalmers, we were discussing this earlier, said that he wants Australians to have more babies. Well, here we are. We're breeding. We're accidentally having way more than I think a lot of people planned. And then where are the services? Where are the services to
Yeah,
support?
exactly. We're out here having one for mum, one for dad, one for the country, and then another one for the country. And where's the support? And if we had 4 kids, one at a time, we would be in a much better place financially. Our mental health would be in a different place. Because we've had them, and it wasn't a choice of ours, because we've had them all at once, we're put in this situation and basically told, net, you get less support. It just does not make sense to me how the experience is so much more extreme and the support is so little, and the recognition isn't there. And I think it doesn't come from a place of a politician, for example, actually, or any research or policy being like, oh no, you're getting the right amount of support. We've thought about it and we've done the calculations. No one's done the calculations. There is no research that they've done. We've done the research. It shows that twins cost up to 5 times more, triplets cost up to 13 times more than having a singleton. And you cited all the research we've done previously. You are more likely to have premature babies, take more time off work, unpaid parental leave. It's going to be harder for you to get back into a job. It's harder for you to access childcare. You're stuck in a loop, essentially. And Katie Gallagher, who's the finance minister, she actually got asked a question in Question Time about this quite recently. It was a few weeks ago. And she was asked, what do you think? Why aren't twins part of the multiple birth allowance? And among a bunch of other things, I've got the full video on our social media page. She mentioned that, so there's a newborn upfront payment and the newborn supplement payment. And she said, well, that's something only twins could get for that second child. Basically justifying, well, no, it's not correct that you don't get extra support. There's actually this payment. So we're like, okay, let's survey the community. Parents of multiples, over 1,000 parents of multiples in Australia answered our 2-minute survey. And we're really looking forward to sharing the results soon. To give you a sneak peek, it's not a lot. Not a lot of parents of twins are actually accessing that payment. And then even less are actually accessing the full payment, which is like 2,000 is the full amount that you get. So even the people that did, even less were actually getting the full amount. So this line from the government that we're currently getting is just not good enough. And the idea that parents of triplets or higher order multiples, quadruplets or more, are getting all this money and all this support from the multiple birth allowance, well, that's just not true either, because the multiple birth allowance is a highly, the amount that you have to earn is so little to be able to access this that even less than half of parents of triplets or more are actually able to access this payment. And to put that into perspective, there's about 50 to 60 a year higher order multiples born in Australia. So what we're talking about is a payment, that the multiple birth allowance, that less than half of those people are able to access. It blows my mind.
Yeah. So it sounds like there's a lot of gaps. I saw that survey and we didn't get this. To be honest, navigating Centrelink and Medicare is horrible with multiples. It's so hard to get through for a start to even get on the phone. It's like an hour or so wait. I was always on the phone with ours. It's hard for them to process when there's multiple children. We have one child with a slightly long name, even Medicare. His name is Charlemagne, and that couldn't fit on the medical card, so they just didn't contact us and we didn't even get the Medicare card. But it's a really bad process, and I think awareness of these payments is a gap, and perhaps the steps to get them need some review in terms of that. And then again, what is with these actual amounts, how does that match against our friends having their single babies over time? Is it still commensurate? I'd be really interested to see that math. Because again, let's talk about data. Maybe the politicians don't want to talk too much about emotions because, yes, parenting is hard. Great, it is. But let's talk about data and facts, taxpayers, and getting our due with being good taxpayers and making children for the country. Jim Chalmers. So anyway, thank you for running through that. Let's keep going through. I wanted to recap as well, Celia, the current multiple issues, I guess, in Australia. So support has gone backwards from your 2025 Good Start, Make It a Good Start report. You noted that. There's been an increase since the 1970s in Australia of multiple birth families. In the 1990s, it was heavily subsidised, and that was before there was a general policy, but there was a subsidy in place. It is no longer available. There was a baby bonus per baby that was abolished. And then at the moment, twins are not considered as two different babies. As a multiple birth, they're considered, it's triplets and up. And again, with triplets, it's quite a modest amount, and access is a real problem. So there's quite a few issues there in terms of the policies actually being effective and being accessible, which makes them close to redundant in a lot of ways. I know that you have had meetings with international bodies. Where does Australia rank internationally against its peers for support of multiple birth families?
We know that Australia ranks about second last in the OECD for support for multiple birth families, and that came out in one of our reports a couple of years ago. Comparing to countries like France, that recognises that parents should have additional parental leave. In New Zealand, there's in-home support schemes that provide hours of domestic support for free for parents of twins and higher order multiples. Is Denmark, who offers additional parental leave, and just this is the way that we're going. There is recognition overseas that parents of multiple should have additional parental leave in comparison to a parent of singleton. There's even other schemes. If you have more children, for example, I can't remember if it's Hungary, where there was a country in Europe where if you have 4 kids, you don't have to pay any, especially when you have more than one at once. We know that it costs 5 times more and up to 13 times more for triplets. There's a recognition that they shouldn't just take into account someone's income, but without fully taking into account how much a child and a dependent will cost that family in proportion to someone's income. And I don't think that recognition is here in Australia. We don't have that. We obviously do not recognise twins as a multiple birth. According to Centrelink, they're not eligible for the multiple birth allowance. And that's just wrong. You've had 2 babies. That's a multiple birth. You should have access to the multiple birth allowance. And you should have access to additional parental leave. There needs to be more recognition of the unique challenges that parents of multiples face in Australia. And we're we're just failing in comparison to other OECD countries who already get this.
It's wild. And look, it's pretty embarrassing for a country that from most aspects sees ourselves as forward looking and health and families and science. So it's pretty embarrassing that the math just doesn't add up. And again, it sounds like there's a lot of oversights. But even hearing you talk just now and saying that it's based on the income, but not how many kids you've had at once to then split that, I guess, across your multiple babies. It's just you had a birth, you've got this income, doesn't count. That again doesn't add up. So something for anyone that's in the political arena or can get that message across, I think that's a really good call out there. So thank you for sharing that. And I think the other thing to mention there as well is there's different ways to structure it. So across the globe, there's different countries that sounds like doing different things. You can do paid parental leave, you can do baby bonuses, you can do in-home support, you can do paternity leave as well, because again, it's all hands on deck, especially if you don't have family. But whatever the structure is, I think there's no doubt that it's currently ineffective and overlooked at the moment. With those in charge, who is responsible in Australia for saying, yes, let's sign off on this? Which politicians and what departments?
Let's name names. Assistant Minister Jed Carney is the Assistant Social Services Minister. She is a twin mum and she is absolutely lovely and an incredible person. She, I think, used to be a nurse or a midwife. And I've had a few meetings with her for the first time ever. She's newly in this role after the election. For the first time, she has multiple births actually in her charter letter, something she asked for specifically because of our advocacy. So that's really incredible achievement and a really powerful thing for us. It means that that's something that she wants to take action in that area. So Tanya Plibersek is the Social Services Minister, and she is the Minister with oversight of the entire portfolio. Then we've got Katie Gallagher, who's our Finance Minister and Minister for Women. She is really central to making any changes in this space, anything to do with additional money. Then we've got Jim Chalmers, the Treasurer, who's also very essential to this. And then on top of all of those, the Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese, who said that he didn't want anyone to be left behind. And multiple birth families are being left behind. So really hope that those people, if they're, working under that mandate, are listening to us and hearing that we need something done. And we needed it done yesterday, frankly.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that. I do wonder whether there's competing groups that are getting ahead or if they're really just not understanding. And honestly, from our discussion, again, talking about the math and the responses you've had to date, it sounds like there's just a miss in understanding the math, and the math at the moment doesn't add up, and the access and the structure isn't effective. So it's an ineffective setup. So I hope everyone's listening and they can voice that. So what can people do? What is it that people in the community that are listening can do, whether they're parents or family or just someone that understands that this is an issue?
Thank you for asking that question. I think there's so much people could do. I think the most effective thing, if you're an Australian parent of multiples especially, and you have a local federal member, is just annoying them and being like, hey, me again. We've got AMBA has an email your MP link, so it's really easy to send a pro forma email where you can still, it's really important that you add a bit about yourself and individualize it, but has the context there. And we made it really easy because we know how little time parents of multiples have. And that's like a small thing that you could do. Then if you've got more time, it's like following up. And we had an amazing, a senator in Tasmania, for example, who actually asked the question of Katie Gallagher in question time. If we had every MP across Australia, senator, bothering the government about this, what we need to create is just noise, constant noise, and it means that, everybody needs to do a little bit and kind of talk to their MP, speak to the media, try and tell your story. We have so many parents who are willing to talk to the media, tell their story, and we love to collaborate with other parents who can tell their story, and we can bring the message of what we need the government to do. So anyone who's willing to tell their story, reaching out to us, and we can facilitate a media story to help raise awareness of what we're advocating for. But yeah, just trying to get a meeting with your local MP and talking about this, bringing our report with you, just put this everywhere, put that on the desk, if you can print it out, take it, email it. We've got Multiple Birth Awareness Week once a year in March for a week, and we usually have an event at Parliament House where we invite families to come and meet MPs and invite those MPs, and we usually get 10 to 15 MPs, a really good turnout, to come and meet these parents. So if you want to be there in person and barge down the door of Parliament House, we would love that. Slide into our DMs. Really, yeah, if I boil it down, it's just creating noise, talking about it. You don't know who's going to listen to it, and they could be the one that starts this domino effect that makes this an unavoidable issue that the government needs to do something about.
That's great. And I know there's a lot of people in some really impressive roles, or they've got friends that maybe they know politicians or people in the media or whatever that might be. So if everyone kind of push that, or maybe even reach out to AMBA and provide that information, say, hey, this is what I can do for you to help escalate. And maybe, again, aiming for that March time, so it's a message and consolidated impact could be impactful as well. So I think we'll have to, hopefully people are listening and thinking of some ideas, so make sure you send them through, guys, because I think, again, as a volunteer organisation, we need all the energy and the support of people.
So another call to action, and something that also makes if this is all you can do, is just joining AMBA, joining the Australian Multiple Birth Association, joining your local affiliated multiple birth club, because that money goes towards these advocacy efforts and education and growing the awareness and organising events at Parliament House. And that's a big show of support for us as well. So that is another way that you can help out.
So thank you so much. I think I just wanted to mention as well, there are some really great data reports on the AMBA website. If you go to the Multiple Births Awareness Week, all the reports are listed over the years. So anyone that wants the full data or wants the media brief, which is high level, they're all there if you want to use that to share around. And we mentioned before, the great news is AMBA and Silje and the whole group of directors there over the years are just doing a fantastic job. I can tell you from reading the reports that the way the messaging is clear, the ask, the data is much more refined. And so hopefully that means we're getting closer to getting some impactful change. Now, we're just about reaching the end. Any final thoughts or takeaways you want to leave with the audience?
I just want to say thank you so much for having me, and it's been so good to chat to you about these things and kind of get into the nitty-gritty of what it's like to advocate and for parents. And I just want to say I stand on the shoulder of giants, because the Australian Multiple Birth Association was established in 1970, and incredible volunteers throughout that time have carried AMBA, advocated for multiple birth families, and all those volunteers who are parents of multiples going to set up playgroup, dropping off meals to other parents with newborns, running new parent groups, hiring out equipment, turning up to meetings at 8 p.m. with the rest of the committee, organising events, advocating on behalf of them to MPs. It is incredible. Like, I am so grateful to be a part of such a passionate community and such a giving community. It changed my whole life becoming a parent of triplets, but it's changed my life again, being a part of such a community who just feel so compelled to help others. There's just nothing like it, and I just feel really grateful.
Well, thank you so much for joining, Silje. It's been wonderful to get into this and to hear more about the data and hopefully educate the audience, whether they be in Australia or overseas, around what the situation is, who to speak to, how they can help. So thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you so much, Emily.
If you enjoyed today's podcast, make sure you hit that subscribe button, send it also to a friend, and I'd love it if you'd give us a rating. That helps the show and sends us to more people just like you to help them get set to thrive, not just survive.